Hey, what's going on, guys? Today we're going to be doing a video on how to make gold in World of Warcraft. Now this is going to be a pretty basic video, and it is mostly aimed, well, pretty much aimed directly at new players to the game, and new players specifically that have just reached level 70 in the new Dragonflight expansion and are wondering, how do I get more gold in my pocket? We're going to be talking about how to do raw gold farming, open world questing and events, as well as side quests, crafting and gathering professions, and finally playing the auction house. But with that, let's just jump right into it. So first up, we have raw gold farming. Gold farming is achieved by killing mobs. It can be done in the open world just by running around killing mobs, and this will be done in tandem with two of our other methods here, but then also, and most often, is done within instanced dungeon and raid content, specifically old instanced dungeon and raid content that we now overlevel, even at a barely geared level 70. Roughly, this can generate you about 15 to 30,000 gold an hour, depending on the instance or how fast you go, what class you're on, whatever it may be. It can be done passively, like I said, within the next two steps. Next, we have open world questing and world events. So we're going to start with world quests, which there are generally, I've found, like 3 to 5, sometimes more, across the current expansion of world quests that reward about 600 to 900 gold upon completion. The world quest and game reset twice a week, on Tuesday mornings at normal reset, 8 a.m., and again on Friday mornings at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. These world quests generally are best to be done across multiple max level characters a week so that you could generate the most amount, but it is pretty good in tandem with the other parts of the open world. This is doing things like the open world events. Now, it's mostly self-explanatory. They show up on your map. Most of them start at the top of every hour. Some are happening every now and then. And I'm also going to include things like world bosses and rare mobs that spawn in the open world into this as well. This is mostly, like, all the gold you're mostly going to get from this will be coming through just raw farming. But I normally suggest if you do this in tandem with world quests and the raw farming, you can generate a decent chunk of gold over the course of a couple hours of playtime. Especially for a casual player, this is a decent way to make a decent chunk of change. There is also side quests and like the side quest chains in the open world that you can do, and this is kind of like basically what you've been doing on your journey from 0 to 70, but the gold you get from it is negligible at best. It can be really rough if that's like the only thing you want to do. You're not going to be making much gold, but I still suggest it's not a bad idea if you're out doing open world stuff and open world quests to do some of these side quests, because you can get things like toys, achievements, a whole bunch of little goodies sometimes, so it can be worth it. Third, we have the crafting and gathering professions. Now, the crafting professions consist of blacksmithing, leatherworking, tailoring, jewel crafting, enchanting, inscribing, engineering, and alchemy. Yeah, it's a lot. Most of these are kind of self-explanatory. Now, the gathering professions consist of mining, skinning, and herbalism. It's pretty simple. Now, these gathering professions, though, are probably where you're going to end up making most of your money. To make the money, though, you really either have to utilize the gathering profession and selling the reagents you get on the auction house, or you have to utilize the in-game work order system that was recently added with Dragonflight. Some of the crafting professions you can't, like some of the stuff you craft, you can just sell on the auction house, especially like PvP gear and some other like fresh level 70 gear you can't sell on the auction house. But a lot of it, comes through the crafting order system, the work orders. These are, in-game, there are a set of NPCs found within DalaGG, which you should have just reached, finishing the Dragonflight campaign and hit a level 70. And they have a little window where you can go and basically set up a work order. Basically, you can submit a work order to a crafter, and you can provide the reagents to craft it, or you can just pay them some money. If you're the crafter, you can then go to your crafting table and go to the work order section and select these orders and craft them for other players. Now, it is variable the amount of money you are going to get from this. Mostly the reason I am mentioning like crafting and gathering is just because a lot of the money you'll make from it is off the auction house. But the work order system is a really nice thing that was added in Dragonflight and is going to supposedly be expanded more in the next expansion. But it allows for characters to get some really decent gear as they are progressing through dungeon and raid content. This, again, it is a little bit more wibbly wobbly, and it is not as concrete as some of the other ways of making money. Now, our last option is going to be the auction house. Now, I will say up front, I don't know that much about the auction house. Now, I use the auction house regularly. I sell stuff on it all the time. In Classic, I have used it to make a decent chunk of change, but I'm nowhere near as skilled as some players are that can make millions in a couple weeks, not even. But I'm going to try and do my best to give somewhat of an explanation and give you a head start onto making some money through it, possibly. While you are raw gold farming, you will be getting tons of items, and most of these you can vendor off. But a lot of them you can sell on the auction house for a pretty decent chunk of change, more than you would get from vendoring. For example, some items that are worth only maybe 2 gold to a vendor can be 200 on the auction house. I mean, not a lot, but it is something over time. With the crafting and gathering, as I said, a lot more of that is worth some money on the auction house, and specifically crafting reagents. Now, what is the auction house? The auction house is an in-game building located in all the capital cities, I believe. Don't fact you can fact check me on that one. Don't quote me on that. But specifically in DalaGG, and I will be showing that one right now, as well as there is one in each Stormwind and Orgrimmar. And inside there are some NPCs that are the auctioneers, and it will pull up a screen like this. On the auction house, when you go in, there will be a bunch of tabs, a bunch of stuff, and all the items. Now, you can either buy outright or bid on items on the auction house. The bidding is more akin to auction house like in real life, and then buyout is pretty self-explanatory. Now, this buyout and bidding is set by the seller. Same thing with the price and the duration of the sell time on the auction house. Now, the main way a lot of people make money through just playing the auction house is by flipping. And if you're not aware of what that is, flipping is the concept of buying low and selling high. So you buy, let's just say, peace blooms, very cheap, and then you sell them at a later date for very high after the market has gone up. This is a not too highbrow of a concept and can be grasped pretty easily, but it takes commitment and time to be able to do it efficiently. And then there is a really important tool that I believe most everyone should download for their World of Warcraft game, and it is the add-on Auctioneer or Auctionator. I can't remember the name of it exactly. It'll be on screen right now, though. And it makes buying and selling on the auction house much easier. I suggest most people get it because even if you aren't trying to make a lot of money on the auction house, it makes your buying and selling time, like I said, much more quick and efficient. This system is so deep and variable and kind of out of my own league personally, but it is to the point where a dedicated enough player a player who is willing to sit and pay attention to prices and all of this junk for hours and hours and days on end, they can make millions. But with that, that's all the real ways that I personally am fully aware of. And wow. Now, I hope watchers of this have been able to learn something and are able to make a little bit of gold. This really isn't an end-all be-all guide. I really do suggest that if you are interested in really making some real gold, you go check out some other videos. I might try and find some and link them in the description for you guys to go check out. Now, I will, before I leave, say, and this is something that most players probably are aware of, there's a way to circumnavigate all of this with your hard-earned real-world cash. Now, do I suggest you do it? I don't not. But also, it is up to you. It's up to you if you want to spend more on top of your $15 subscription or not. But you can buy WoW Gold. There are places to do it online. I'm not going to promote any of them or whatever. I personally have a weird feeling with how it is because it has affected the in-game market. And it is one of the reasons why raw gold farming straight up in instances isn't as insanely lucrative as it used to be in Classic WoW. With all that being said, thank you all for watching the video. Hope you learned something. Hope you're able to get some gold in your pocket. And hopefully, I see you in the next one. Goodbye.